welcome to this episode of Mom Talk. And today we are sitting down with Jessika Appleton. And I know her through Victoria, but I want to know how y'all know each other.
Well, we were best friends in high school. I actually lived right down the road, and she had already lived here prior to that.
You're the new one.
Yes. So I lived here for all through high school, but we were best friends in high school, and we had a lot of fun.
I met her on the bus day one of high school.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, on the bus.
And fun fact, I now live on the same street she
Yes.
used to live on.
Okay, so you lived in this neighborhood first?
I've lived in this neighborhood a couple times, yes.
Okay, and then you moved in?
Yes.
I moved in, in 2008. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then, just the neighborhood kids. We got together and hung out.
Yes.
Just walking around the neighborhood, hanging out?
Literally.
We did that, yeah. We had another best friend, too, right down the road, Audrey, and we would, go hang out at each other's house. It was so much fun.
Yeah, her house was kind of in the middle of ours. Here's the middle point.
Because her parents still live in this neighborhood, right?
They do, yeah. I saw them yesterday.
Okay. Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so besties since high school.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
Did you go to college? I can't remember.
I did for a little while, and then, of course, it didn't work out. But
Yeah, me too. Love that.
Hey, you tried it.
Okay, so how did you end up at the job you're at now?
So before this, I worked at a law firm, and I worked there for 3 years. And then one of the attorneys that I was working for was retiring, and I wasn't sure if the other attorneys were going to keep me. So then I had one of the workers there that I was really close with, Laura Mann. She's like, I think I might have a job for you. I'm going to transfer, this person had called, and they're like, I'm going to transfer you to them. And I was like, okay. And so they're like, hey, where my wife is working at has a job for you if you're interested. And I was like, yeah, because I wasn't sure if I was going to even have a job. I had Bryson, and he was only 5 months old at the time.
I remember texting you back then. He was young.
Yeah, so I was really nervous, and I was like, okay, yeah. So then I met with them, and it worked out. So I've been here at Ellis & Company for 4 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the whole time you've had kids pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much,
Yeah.
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you and Zach.
Yes, so we knew each other in high school. Of course, Victoria knew Zach, too.
I was going to say, you know him too then, right?
Okay, she said they knew each other, Jordan. That's key here.
Okay.
Yes. So we knew each other. We did not date in high school. And
Were y'all even friends or just acquaintances?
so we knew each other from freshman year of gym. We didn't have any class together since then.
Right.
We throughout high school
barely
no
knew
class.
each other.
Yes, barely knew each other. So but we would say hi to each other. We would talk, and it was just so funny how it happened. I saw him. I worked at Bojangles when I was going to college and kind of a little bit after, and I saw him at Mapco, and I was like, I just went to go. He was with some people that I knew too, so I just drove over there and
Look at you.
talked to them.
Making the move.
I just went over there and just talked to them all, and then we just started talking, and then
Jessica will talk to anybody.
yes,
I
I was
love
friends
that.
with anybody in high school.
Yeah.
You can just,
were.
I loved people, so just it didn't matter what you looked like, didn't matter who you were.
Are you from here?
So I moved here. I'm technically from here, but my dad was active duty military, which is why we moved here.
Okay.
I moved here when I was 3, and then we moved away when I was in middle school to Savannah, Georgia. That's where my dad got stationed, and then we moved back in 2008.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So that's probably why you're good at making friends too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have a choice.
Yes, that is true. So, but yeah, definitely. My parents don't live here anymore, so they're
Where are they?
They are in Alabama.
Okay.
At
So how far?
Enterprise area. It's about 6.5 hours away.
Oh, that's a good drive from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my dad got stationed there. He's been there for a few years now, but he's now retired. But they are planning on moving back after my sister graduates from high school, because it has been rough being here with them not here, and being able to be with the kids. So
I mean, I'm sure that's hard on them too as grandparents.
Yeah,
To not be with their grandbabies.
Yeah, well,
that's hard.
And my mom watched Bryson the first 6 months of his life before he started at the Red Barn. So
They have a special little
so them not being around Hudson whenever he was going through the baby phases, I think was really hard on them. So
yeah,
they just want my sister to be able to graduate high school. They don't want
to move her again.
They don't want to have to move her.
What grade is she in?
She is a junior.
Okay, so pretty soon they could be back.
Yep, she was in diapers.
No, I was literally about to say, I was like, it is so weird. Every time I see a picture of Lily, I'm like, She was a toddler.
Yeah,
no, like literally, she was like 3. What year was she born?
She was actually she was only a year old.
Oh,
she was
my
in diapers.
gosh.
She turned a year old when we had just moved into the house when she turned a year old.
I mean, yeah, she was a baby.
And now
when
she's
I met her.
16.
Aww.
So
She's like smaller than both my current kids are.
Yeah.
hmm
Wow.
That's so
Will she
weird.
move back here with them, or does she know?
I don't know. She's wanting to do more she's thinking about going into social work and stuff. So I don't know what she's going to do. She's done really well there and she has a lot of friends. So it's just really what she wants. So I don't know. But,
Yeah, she's thriving there.
hmm
Okay.
Okay, so how did you and Zach end up married after
The MAPCO.
the Matco?
MAPCO to marry.
How long did we date?
So we started dating in 2015 and then we got married in 2018. So we were only dating for a couple years, but
I just feel like I have to say I really like your timeline for life. Like, you know how you look at people's lives and you're like, oh, like, yes, that one makes sense.
That one works.
Yeah. So we had already been through a lot of trials and tribulations. We had a miscarriage when I was about 22. So we were we were only dating. We weren't married, and I was working at Bojangles. And so that was back at the end of 2015, 2016 era. So we had already been going through that. And then whenever we got pregnant with Bryson, I was shocked.
That was after y'all were married?
That was after we were married. We have only been married. We weren't even married for a year. And so when I found out I was pregnant with Bryson, I just started crying because, going through the miscarriage, I didn't know if I was ready to have a baby. I didn't know when I was going to be ready to have a child. So it was really scary for me because I was like, is this going to happen again? And I was, because, that was very traumatic. I went through a lot of depression. I didn't want to get out of my bed. So I was like, I was mortified. Is this going to happen again? So I started off, I started crying. I remember going to my coworkers after I had the doctor's appointment to Miss Laura, who I talked about earlier, and then Miss Mary, who also worked there. And I just started crying. I was like, I'm pregnant. And they're like, it's okay. And I'm like, I don't know what to do.
They're probably like, congrats. And you're like, no.
I'm like, I'm so scared. And they're like, it's going to be okay. Because, I was at least, working a stable job. So it was, I was just really nervous and I didn't know. And, I was 25. So I was like, am I ready? And you never really know when you're going to be ready.
Until it's here.
Yeah. So, and that pregnancy...
That was hard.
I remember talking to Victoria about it. I'm like, I'm just throwing up all the time.
She was like, I literally can't move without throwing up.
Yes, I had to stay in bed because if I moved, I would always get sick. I remember Zach's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I'm just so sick.
Mm-hmm.
I would...
Was sick the whole time? Did it ever let up?
It did start to let up towards second trimester. Mm-hmm. But then when I would go towards the ends in the third trimester, it started back up again. But I remember clearly. Now, thankfully, I back then worked literally right down the road lived right down the road from my work. So, but I remember getting out of my house, getting into my car, having to get out of my car and puke in the grass.
Oh.
I couldn't make it to the bathroom. And I remember my coworkers coming to me and they're like, I just, because I would constantly have to run to the bathroom at work and puke several times a day. And they were like, are you okay? And they're like, I'm just so shocked that you come into work every day. You don't complain. And I'm like, well, I do complain. I do complain, but at home. So, but that was not fun. But
did you find out he was a boy or did you wait until you had him?
I definitely found out he was a boy. I couldn't wait.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't strike me as the kind to wait.
And then we had the gender reveal, and that's how we found out it was a boy.
What kind of reveal did y'all do?
We did cake pops.
That's cute.
Yes. So my mom didn't know, but her friends were the one that did it that, I was really close with too, and they made the cake pops. It was great.
That's so cute. Sweet. My kids just asked me if I did a gender reveal. But my daughter is about to turn 13. My son is 10. And I'm like, I just missed the cutoff before
that
it was
wasn't
cool.
a thing.
Yeah, it was not a thing. I said my gender reveal was calling everybody and be like, hey, I'm having a girl.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you came up to the spa after your ultrasound with Henry.
Yeah.
And was like, it's a boy.
I know. So yeah, that was my only moment. But I love the gender reveals. I think they're so fun.
They are.
See, I'm even less patient than you though, because I was like, okay, well, let me just tell everybody now that I know.
It was so hard because I was like, that goes to show.
You knew for your gender reveal? Or
I did not know.
Oh, okay.
But this goes to show that I did not have a gender reveal for the second one. It was so hard.
Yeah.
the first time. I was like, I just want to know. And the second time with Hudson, we did like the lab work stuff to tell whether it was a boy or girl so we could find out earlier.
That's what I did both
That's
times.
what Victoria did. She took a phone call one day at work. She came
did.
back out. She's like, it's a boy. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's what I did with Hudson. They didn't even offer it to me the first time, so I didn't even know about it. And then I found out that you could do that, and they're like, wait, we can do this. And
Yeah,
I'm
like 9 weeks or something crazy early.
So we found out the second time, and I just started calling people, it's a boy. It's another boy.
Did you want a girl or did you care?
I would like to have a girl. I mean, I didn't care at the time. I was just happy it was a boy, and we found out on Zach's birthday.
That's sweet.
Yeah, so I got the phone call on his birthday and texted him, well, you get a birthday present. It's a boy. It's another boy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he was happy.
He was excited, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are his parents in town?
So, his dad lives here, but his mom lives in Charleston, South Carolina.
Wow. So you're just
So-
out here with 2 kids by yourself. I mean,
Doing it all. I mean, isn't that wild?
I just can't.
for both
like,
of us.
I know we rely so heavily on our parents. So
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah, I told my parents, and when they were here for Thanksgiving, I was like, I think I just broke down in tears because I
know.
do get very emotional about it.
I know you miss them.
I do miss them, and it's really hard because I do see a lot of like grandparents, here to be able to help, and it's like I wish I had that, but and there's been times where I'm like, I tell Zach I need to get away.
No,
Yeah,
I'm sure
So-
you
and
do.
I feel bad for that.
No,
It's
you were
like,
in the
can't.
trenches of childhood. They're so young.
yeah,
Yeah, you need a break because you're working full time, right?
I am.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then you have Bryson's 5
Bryson's
and
5.
Hudson's 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Has he started kindergarten yet? Or
He starts
will?
next year.
Okay, that's exciting.
He was in Mason's class.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
They, split the class, but they're the same.
Oh, so you know Calvin?
I do.
My nephew?
Yes, they've been in the same class since
Okay.
infancy. Yep.
Yeah, that's my nephew.
Yep. Bryson used to talk. Well, when they were in the same class, he used to talk about him all the time.
Cal, I
It's like good or bad.
No, he loved Kelvin.
bet. Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the age gap. So Bryson is 5, Hudson is 1. Is that the age gap you kind of had in mind? Was Hudson a surprise?
So Hudson was not a surprise. He was planned. The age gap, I wanted about 2 years, but Zach kept on saying, I'm not ready. So then finally he was like, I'm ready. So we did plan, and then I had a very early miscarriage before Hudson, but Hudson was planned.
And how was that pregnancy?
I was still sick. I don't think I was as sick as Bryson, but I was still sick for like all throughout the first trimester. I was still throwing up at work, but it wasn't like as bad, but it was still bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, and then I found out when I was about 20 weeks that he had, they called me for an ultrasound. They're like, hey, we got, from your last ultrasound, we just want to make sure, but we want you to come in. And they found out he was what you call a single artery vessel cord. So during the pregnancy, somehow he lost, there's 2 arteries in the umbilical cord, and he had lost 1. So I had to go in for like several ultrasounds for like the last 10 weeks of my pregnancy. I had to go weekly. So that was really hard.
Were you on pins and needles the whole time? Or
I was
what did
really
they-
nervous.
Yeah.
Yes, I was really scared because I asked, my doctor was Dr. McIntosh at the time, and I was like, what's the worst case scenario? And he's like, we're not going to talk about that because it happens, but it doesn't happen it's not as common.
But then you Googled it, didn't you?
I did Google it.
Oh, here we go. I know.
I did Google it, even though I know it's not supposed to.
I know you can't help it.
Yes,
Especially when your doctor gives you that answer.
Yeah.
yes, because that wasn't like an answer that I was like, I asked you like what could happen, and he just kind of beat around the bush. But I'm actually kind of glad because it made me not as worried though, because I was like, Dr. Mack was the one who delivered Bryson, so I really trusted him, and he's just such a good doctor. So I was like, but I was really nervous. I was
can
really nervous
imagine.
throughout.
And I think anytime you have to go multiple times or like once a week, like you said, for ultrasounds, like you're just waiting on it to be not good one time.
Yes, and the one thing about that, condition is like it's just growth development. They don't grow as fast as they're supposed to. But, so they expected Hudson to not be, very big. And then he came out 7 pounds.
Yeah, so
And that's
normal.
usually that's what I was reading on a lot of cases was that's what
Just a smaller
happens.
baby.
So that's the main concern.
Yes, it's just the nutrients. They don't get enough nutrients to the placenta, and the back and forth and stuff. But yeah, that was the main concern. When I had texted Zach's mom, like, what was going on, she said that she did research on it. She's like, I had never even heard about that.
No, I've never heard of it.
From what I've read, it can only be caught on an ultrasound. So that's why they called me. And it's usually caught in the 20th.
Run that anatomy scan.
Yeah. So that's when they caught it. But then, when I was going to the hospital to deliver him, he started to lose, they had to put an oxygen mask on me. His heart rate started dropping down pretty low. And when she was rushing to get the oxygen mask, I didn't know what was going. She didn't say. I just started crying because I just saw her moving, and I saw the look on Zach's face, and he was like mortified. And I was like, what's going on? And she's like, the nurse is like, you just need to calm down, because when, you're getting upset, he's going to get upset. And it's not going to be good for both of y'all. So I had to just calm down, and they had to flip me over, of course, or on the side. And it was so uncomfortable. I was like, this is not fun. And so then I feel something. I had already had the epidural, but I started feeling like pressure down there. So after being flipped over for it felt like an eternity, but it was probably only like 30 minutes. So I told Zach, I was like, please call the nurse, because I feel something. His head.
He was coming?
He was coming.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And nobody was in there.
You were just going to casually have a baby.
Yes. I was like, yeah, his head was like there. She's like, oh yeah, you're having them. So they had to get Sable, who was the nurse midwife at the time. She had to come in there and deliver him. And I was like, oh.
Just real quick by herself?
Yeah. Well, it was, well, they had other people there. Then there was a young girl who came in, and she's like, so this girl, she's never seen a single artery vessel cord before, and she's learning. Do you mind if she's... I know. She's like, do you mind if she's in here to watch? And I was like, well, everyone else is in here
to
watch. Yes. So I'm like, yeah, sure. And Zach got to see it. I didn't really get to see it because, I was busy.
Moms get gypped. We don't get to see anything.
I know.
No.
All the work.
Did you go into labor naturally?
Yes.
Okay.
Both times.
Yes, both times.
Nice. Did your water break?
They had to break my water for both times.
Okay.
Yes. So the first time my due date was September 4th, and I had Bryson September 3rd.
Wow.
And so it was Labor Day weekend. So it was on Labor Day.
Labor and on Labor Day.
Yes. And I felt contractions, but I didn't know what to expect. So I was like, should we go to the hospital? And so I called my mom and I was like, what do I do? And she's like, I would just go just in case, because you don't know.
Right.
So
you're that close to your due date.
Yeah.
So I go to the hospital, and they check me, and Dr. Matt just comes in there and like, so we're gonna have a baby. And I was like, what?
You're like, we are?
You're like, wait, this is the real thing?
Yeah, I was like, wait a second. I just came in just to be checked. But he's like, so then he was like, y'all look shocked. What do you expect? Your due date's tomorrow. Like, I'm just, I guess I've just heard people. So I was actually 12 days late. My mom had me 12 days late.
Okay.
So I was expecting later. So I was like, okay. So
and first baby, I feel like you hear they come late.
Mm-hmm.
That is right. So, and I've heard horror stories about labor, labor horror stories and everything. So I didn't really know what to expect. I was in labor for 5 hours.
Just so quick, Jessica.
I know. And you got the epidural with that one too?
Yes, I did. And I only pushed for it had to be less than 20 minutes.
Oh, you're good.
It was, yes.
You go.
And then Hudson was less than that. And I think I was only pushing for a couple of minutes. And he was already there.
How long were you in labor?
Less than that. It was probably just about between 2 to 3 hours.
Oh my gosh, you literally let these kids fall out.
That's what my mom said. She's like, I've never heard anything of such, because she was like, most people are in longer labors the first baby, and then it's a little bit shorter than the second one. So she's like, so I'm just curious how the next one's gonna go.
Right, you're not gonna make it to the hospital.
Yeah.
Are y'all open to a third?
We're open.
Or don't know?
So Zach wants to have a third baby, but he wants to wait until Hudson's in elementary school, and I'm like, I don't want to be in my, late 30s.
What's his reasoning for having them that far apart?
So the reason for having them that far apart was because I had asked him, and he's like, well, we're going through the terrible twos with Hudson, and he's like, I don't know if we can handle this right now, going out in public, we're the ones that everyone looks at. It's just
not if I'm there.
Everyone, we went to the Paula Deen's restaurant in Nashville yesterday after taking Santa pictures, and Zach's like, what have we done? We taken them to this nice restaurant, and we have these two wild boys, and we're just like, oh my goodness, never again.
Instant regret.
Yes. And then it's also daycare. Trying to afford childcare for two kids, two kids already. It's just, it's, eating us alive, and having a third, it would be rough. So,
yeah.
My cousins actually planned their kids out the 5 years apart, so they would be out of daycare and into school before the next one.
Wow.
Yeah. Just for that reason.
I mean, you have to. Or you have to quit your job.
Right.
I mean, at some point, you're paying more in daycare than you're making.
Yeah, it takes up, because I take care, that's what, Zach takes care of a lot of the bills, but I take care of, childcare. So, it takes up, almost, more than half of my paycheck.
Here's all my money.
Wow. Yes, I'm like, here comes $780-something all to you for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's
I feel it.
Yeah.
Did y'all have a set plan of how many kids you wanted to have before you started having kids? Or?
We wanted 4.
Okay.
So at first Zach wanted 6, and I'm like, no.
I always said 4 to 7.
Yes. I said no to 6. I said, I will, meet you somewhere. I said 4. But now Zach's like, oh.
He's good.
He's like, 2 is enough for me right now. Yeah.
Does he have a big family? Is that why he wanted more?
So he only has 2 siblings. He has 2 sisters, and I have 2 siblings.
Okay.
And our youngest sisters are the same age.
Okay.
They're 16. But yeah, he's just, I don't know. He just, I guess, always wanted 6, and now we're like, yeah, no.
It's just so different once you have them.
Yes, and I think his mind will change with having the third one. I think maybe if we had more of a support system here, but I feel like we have a support system, but they don't live here.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I think his mind will change if, once my parents move back, because they are planning on moving back there for sure. Said that they
coming
are
on back.
Yes,
yeah,
coming on back. Yeah. So,
do you feel like when you see the memes of boy mom, is that your life? How are your boys? Yeah,
they're so hyper. So I know that I've heard stories about Calvin and stuff.
Yeah,
the boys, because I actually go to church with Jessika Appleton.
Yep, my cousin.
Yep, I go to church with her, so I know she's like them wild boys, and I'm like, oh yes.
She was terrified to have a boy because of them.
I love that.
And I was like, it's gonna be okay.
Yes,
it does look scary though.
Yep.
But having 2 boys has been a lot of fun. But yeah, it's just, it's rambunctious. Last night, they were just, wrestling with Zach. And then, things were being thrown at each other. Then they started crying and screaming. And then I'm like, Zach's like, well, he hit me in the face. And I'm like, well, don't wrestle with him. I don't know what else to tell you.
Zach, he's
Let me
like,
tell you something. It doesn't matter. I don't think, my girl is rough.
Really?
She will throw down with Jarrett and Mason.
She's got to hang in there around this house.
She's got to be tough. But she will. Like you said, the wrestling matches. I'm like the WWE in my living room. Literally jumping off the couch onto each other.
Yes. And they treat the couch like it's like a jungle gym. I've tried to fix that. But then I'm like, you know what? If y'all want to hurt yourselves, I'm not going to fight with you. I feel like when I do that, it kind of makes the situation worse. So I'm like, you know what? If you want to hurt yourself, then fine. Do it.
Natural consequences.
Yes.
You're doing this, here's what happens.
Yes.
Mess around and find out. Mason told me that about something the other day. I burnt myself while I was cooking, and he's heard the phrase mess around and find out. I say mess around. I really do say mess. And I burnt myself doing something in the kitchen. He goes, you messed around and found out.
I was like,
oh.
I can totally hear you saying that to him, though.
No, I do. I'm like, mess around and find out.
Yeah.
And he does mess around and he does find out. But he's a slow learner, maybe.
Yeah.
It takes more than one time of it going south.
Yes, those are. I feel like that's the story of my kids' lives. They will do it again and again until
because they're determined, which is great. But they know they can do it and they cannot do it.
Yeah.
You're gonna get hurt every time.
Are they really sweet with you though? How people say boys are different.
So they are Bryson all the time. Because I didn't, I also have a brother that, I was 10 when he was born. So, I was around for most of his life. And I never really heard him, go up to my mom and say, I love you all the time. I just never heard that. So Bryson does go up to me all the time and he says, I love you, Mommy. And I'm like, oh, it just makes my heart melt when they do that. I'm like, oh, so sweet. And then Hudson will just go up to you and wrap his arms around you and hug you.
Sweet.
I'm like, yeah, it's really.
He's still a baby too.
Yes, he's so
to me.
He can be sweet. He has his moments.
And wait, how old is he? Did you say?
He's a year old.
A year.
I know,
she does have a full baby.
I know.
When I would see Remy, this summer, I'm like, Victoria, she's still a little babe. Like, my kids are just so big now.
Well, we were at your pool one day, and you were like, she's a baby.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, she's almost 3.
No, she's still a baby. So
she looks like a baby, and she'll always be your baby.
She will always be my baby. We are done. So she is the baby. And you can ask her, too. I'm like, are you a big girl? No, my baby. I'm like, okay, you can just say that forever. I'm fine with it. I'm not even going to correct you.
I love that. Because that's, Bryson's always like, when am I going to be a grown man? And I'm like, please don't. And he's like, so I can be a daddy. And I'm like,
that's sweet though. But yeah, don't rush it.
He's ready to be a daddy. He's like, when am I going to be a grown man? So I can be a
Mason
daddy.
went and got married at school, so
I
can relate.
I love that.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm going to have 3 jobs when I grow up. I'm like, oh, great.
We'll see how that turns out. Oh, like his daddy?
Yes.
He wants 3 jobs like his daddy. Yeah, just work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They're funny.
All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to Spotify or the Purple Podcast app.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.